Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our American Studies. And today I recorded the video. Today is 27 May 2021. And I'll be talking shortly about the differences between the North and the South in terms of civil war. I think you also have remembered, and also you have read somewhere or in your book about this most important historical account in the US history, but I just want to refresh your memories about these two things between the northern parts of America and the southern part of America and the causes of the Civil War. First of all, the North, as we know, had been very advanced at that time, where they had been developing many manufacturers, and because of the rising environment of industry and manufacture, such as producing good like clothing and furniture. So the northern factories, they didn't use any more slaves, and the abolition of slavery system actually uh, was aimed to free the slaves. And as for your information, I think you are also aware that President Lincoln initiated to produce a law that banned the slaves in the entire United States of America. While the people in the southern, they still depended on agriculture for their economy. And of course, the main commodity at that time was the crop of cotton, and then we can say uh, such as corn and other plantations. So they feel that they still needed the labor of slaves in order to work on the farms or in the plantation. So when the policy of abolishing the slaves issued by Abraham Lincoln, of course, they opposed this policy. And the northern states also produced expensive products and got the US government to put a protectionist tax on products from other countries. What is actually a protectionist tax? That means for some commodities such as clothing or furniture, they lowering down the tax because those things were produced in the northern, while they, let's say, applied or imposed higher tax with the same commodities from other countries. So they just want to protect, or they just want to, what is it, to make the people in the northern states being in the welfare situation. Meanwhile, the southern states, they preferred cheap European goods, so they prefer to choose goods from Europe rather than the north. And this is actually what made them oppose the protective tax on them. And then the northern also was adding free states to the union and had larger populations than the southern part of the United States, of course. And the northern states had more representative in the Congress than the southern ones. Of course, in a system where the more populations you have, the more representative you can have in the Congress. If your area got less population, that means you get less representative in the Congress, or what we call as House of Representatives, or let's say MPR, DPR in bahasa Indonesia. Meanwhile, the South was adding slave states to the Union, but they had a smaller population than the northern, of course, and of course they were losing power every time they were decision making, such as when the Congress wanted to produce a law. If they disagree with that law, they couldn't do anything because they had less representatives at that time. And the Northern also believe in the unity of the United States and opposed the separation of the Southern states from the Union. Meanwhile, the Southern, they opposed federal laws. So what's the meaning of federal laws? Federal laws means laws, ataupun yang dalam bahasa Indonesia we call it undang-undang, that um, that must be applied in every state. Even though every state has its own laws, federal laws mean the laws that must be implied, that must be instilled, that must be run in every state. So I think it's a different case with Indonesia, where um, every province in Indonesia, um, they have they have to follow every laws come from the central, come from Jakarta, because we are centralized system. Meanwhile, United States uses till this time, they uses the federal system, means state has its own laws, but they also have to follow the federal states, which is applicable to every state. So that's you have to underline the differences. And the Southern opposed federal laws and seceded or separated from the Union by creating the Confederate States of America. I think in the previous meeting I have asked you, and in the examination also I have asked you about the Confederate States, which states belong to these Confederate States, okay? And the northern states supported the election of Abraham Lincoln as the president of the United States, while the southern states, they opposed the election of Abraham Lincoln and chose Jefferson Davis as the president of the Confederacy. So that's the glimpse about the causes of the Civil War between the northern and the southern. Now we go to the era where this is also one of the most important era in American history, which is what we call as Industrial Revolution. So I think when we think about Industrial Revolution, we think about the machinery, we think about how advanced the situation at that time in terms of technology and everything which works with machines. And also, you have to know that before the 19th century, people produce most goods such as clothing, furniture, and everything by hand. So during the Industrial Revolution, these machines changed the methods of production, of course. The introduction of machineries made everything faster at that time. And America grew to be one of the industrial power at that time, and even until now. And mass production made manufacturing quick and of course cheap, because they don't have to pay lots of labor at that times. And many important inventions of the Industrial Revolution in the USA, some of them, some of the examples are Eli Whitney's cotton gin. Yeah, cotton gin is actually one of the machine that turned the cotton into the clothes. If you imagine, it's actually a machine that changed the cotton, raw cotton, into linen, or cotton, which is fabric. And also Elias Howe's sewing machine, yeah, atau mesin jahit. And also, if we ever heard about Alexander Graham Bell, which invented the telephone, and also Thomas Alva Edison, which invented the phonograph and electric. like. So those are the famous names of the people from the USA that influenced the industrial revolution, not only in the United States of America but also around the world. So thanks to them, uh, uh, those names were actually names that changed the map of industrial revolution in the United States of America. Okay, and now we are going to talk about the time of Reconstruction. So what does it mean, the time of Reconstruction? The time of Reconstruction means that there were the times where America needed, yeah, to reconstruct their country because of the war, because of the civil war. The event of civil war cost many lives and of course destroyed many parts of the United States of America, and they needed to reconstruct the country. And the period of Reconstruction was born from the period of Reconstruction was started from 1865 to 1877. So can you imagine? It's quite a long time, yeah, from 1865 to 1877. So it's around 12 years. 12 years of time of reconstructions in the United States. So during this time, Republicans of the North helped ex-slaves, yeah, ex-slaves with housing. So basically, the Republicans at the time provided houses for ex-slaves. Now they are free men. They were also given free educations and food, and the Congress had also passed the three amendments to the U.S. Constitution. So you have to remember this. At that time, the U.S. Constitutions passed three amendments. So what does it mean by amendments? Amendment is changing the law where it is necessary. Ya, jadi kayak merubah undang-undang jika dibutuhkan. Yeah, that's what we call as amendment. So the first amendment is Amendment 13, which ended or abolished the slavery. So Amendment 13 said that slavery is no more legal in the United States of America. That means if someone has slaves, they cannot do that. And the second one is Amendment 14, which this is one of the crucial amendments, I think, because this is like the quantum leap for the ex-slaves at the time, where Amendment 14 stated that all ex-slaves must be um, must be legal. They must be this. Um, they must be given their rights to be the citizens of the United States of America. So basically, in this Amendment 14, they got their rights to be the real humans, to be treated like the same, just like their white counterparts. So they felt that it was a very life-changing moment for them because finally the state acknowledged them as their citizens. And then there is Amendment 15. This is also very important because Amendment 15 gave political rights to these ex-slaves. That means they were given rights to vote. Yeah, to vote. That means in political campaign, they could attend the political campaign. They could also vote their candidates for the presidency or for the Congress, and so on and so forth. So these three amendments, Amendments 13, 14, and 15, are the amendments that change the life of ex-slaves forever in the United States of America. Right? Now we will go to the this is also very interesting to discuss. I'm going to discuss about the US when it becomes the world power. But before, the United States becomes the world power, they needed to go through some events that became one of the histories that they didn't want to. They will never ever mention this. Uh, I want this happen again, because um, this is one of the you know one of the histories in the U.S. which made people's shatters, which made people killed, which made people gone astray, because this situation was very monumental and also phenomenal, and also changed the way how American lives today. That's what we call as the Great Depressions of the United States of America. So America has had its first great economy depressions, of course, after they got involved in the war. Yeah, after they got involved in the war. So that was the biggest decision at the time for them to send the troops to other parts of the world, and they wanted to side to one of the countries in the Europe, and they felt that they got rights to do it, but it had costs and it had consequence, of course. And let me tell you about how the Great Depression can shape today's American society. First of all, because American goods were too expensive for other countries to buy, and American wages were very low at the time. So many investors, they lost confidence in the stock market and sold their stocks. So they sold their shares, they sold their part of ownership, even they sold the companies. So the Great Depression began with the stock market crash on Black Tuesday. So it happened on Tuesday, and it is very well known as Black Tuesday in October 29th in 1929. So thousands of business, factories and banks were closed down, and millions of workers lost their jobs, and millions of Americans turned into poverty, into poor people. And this time of economic depression lasted for 10 years. Can you imagine that? So for 10 years, Americans were very poor. They couldn't, even feed their children. Um, they couldn't find jobs. That was the black history of America. Not the black people, but the history that they will never repeat because of the tragedy that caused it. And President Franklin D. Roosevelt helped to end the Great Depression with his New Deal of relief, recovery, and reform, or what we call as 3R. Yeah, relief, recovery, and reform. And his government relieved suffering with payments to unemployed people, and they gave loans to these people and to the farmers and to the homeowners. So basically the government provided some assistance, cash assistance, and then system that could help people to get the money, especially for the homeowners to get to pay the mortgage and everything. And it created government jobs to help the economy to recover. And Roosevelt also worked on economic reform to prevent future depressions. I think that's all for today, that we have talked so many things. Let me summarize for you a little bit, that we have talked about the cause of the civil wars, the differences between the northern states and the southern states, the Union and the Confederates. And also we have talked about the Industrial Revolutions, the time of Reconstructions, and also a little bit about the Great Depressions in the United States of America. And I hope after watching this video and listening to this video, you could get a little information about American history, and also things about America that you need to know to level up, to elevate your knowledge regarding our course, which is American Studies. And thank you for listening. Thank you for watching until the end. I hope you watch it until the end, and uh, I will think to make assignments or not. I'm not sure. Yes, I want to give you assignments, but yeah, um, I will let you know whether I will make an assignment for you or not. Okay, I think that's all for today, and thank you for your attention. I'll see you again next week. Goodbye.